Let's head back to Paris now, where there have been some developments following that deadly shooting we've been reporting on. You can see the live pictures there. A bit of disturbances, it seems, or excitement at least, going on in the streets. Natasha Butler is there for us. Natasha, take us through what's happening. Looks like a lot of angry people right now.
Yeah, what you've got behind me are many people from Paris's Kurdish community, and they are very upset because they feel that the shooting that took place here a bit earlier today was targeted specifically at them, because the shooter opened fire in a street where there was a Kurdish centre, but there was also a restaurant, there was also a hairdresser's. But people here really do feel that perhaps that shooting was against them, against their community. They say they're not being protected. There's a lot of anger here. People are chanting things against Turkey, against the Turkish President Erdogan, and someone a short time ago just set fire to a flag.
Natasha, this is what's on Reuters news agency, quoting the French Interior Minister, Gérald Darmanin, saying that the suspect appears to have had racist motivations. Are we getting any more details about what the motive of the attack or about the suspect himself?
I think there's just been some tear gas from police there, so if we have to move, we will. But what we know and what the French Interior Minister has said is that it does seem as if there could have been a racist motivation for this attack. This suspect was known to police. In fact, in 2021, he was charged for a suspected attack on some migrants in a migrant camp in the centre of Paris. So that's what we've heard from the French Interior Minister, also from the Paris prosecutor. And this is, this area in the centre of Paris is a very multicultural area. There are people from all different communities. But as I said, really what we have here is mainly Paris's Kurdish community, who feel very upset indeed because this attack took place outside a Kurdish centre, and they really feel that they specifically were targeted, even though that hasn't been confirmed by police.
Of course, years ago we did see attacks in Paris. They were investigated or framed as terrorist incidents, especially where the suspect was of a migrant, immigrant or Muslim background. How is this being investigated by police so far?
Yes. Well, not all attacks in France by people of Muslim backgrounds have, of course, just looking at as people are starting to throw things. Not all of them have been framed necessarily as terrorist incidents. Some of them have been, in the past, some have been framed as lone wolf incidents. I think that's how authorities are naming this particular incident indeed. To be honest, though, I think we should probably move out the way because people are trying to search towards us.
Natasha, let's let you take cover. We'll come back to you later.
But I will. I can.
We don't want to keep you in harm's way, Natasha, so if you need to move, all right, maybe we should move on. We'll let Natasha take cover. We'll come back to her a little later.
I'm here if you need me.
Right, well, I'll let you make the call. All right, we're going to make the call, actually, so we'll let Natasha take some cover there.
If you're an options trader, day trader, or stock trader.
Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praises and glory and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Karkadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone, pushing His word truthfully and sincerely. Shalom to the Akim, scattered through the four corners of the globe, preaching the word truthfully and sincerely. And shalom to the Akim, scattered through the four corners of the globe, preaching the word truthfully and sincerely. And shalom to the Akim that be like unto the speckled bird, preaching the word truthfully and sincerely. And I say, shalom to you, Akim, out there. And as you see that, I believe it was like a two-minute video clip. I was showing what's happened over there in Paris. It seemed like it was a shooter. I think it was outside a cafe in the Kurdish community. when 3 people were shot. And then after the shooting, you had a protest over there, and the Kurdish community kind of felt like their community was under threat. And and this does kind of make sense because you already had tensions going on in central Turkey. What happened back in November, you know, because you already got oh, I'd say the last
I thought that was church's chicken.
no Popeyes.
Now I was talking to Aaron.
Slovakia for that. And back to what I was saying, I was talking to my brother. And this come to mind that makes sense that you already had the tensions of what happened over there in central Turkey, of that bombing. I believe that killed like a dozen of people, injured others as well too back in November. And because the Turks and the Kurds, they really don't get along with each other. And then with this incident that just happened over there in France in the Kurdish community, I mean, they said the suspect had some previous runnings with the local authorities of had something against migrants or something like that, but they wasn't really specifically going deeper into the suspect that shot those 3 people in the Kurdistan, the cafe area over there in that region in Paris, France. So, that's why I had to add a note to that because, the Kurdish, the Kurdish military, especially, the Turks versus the Kurds in eastern Iraq and eastern Syria as well too, is already going through like military operation, because back in November, as I mentioned before, after that central bombing, they blamed it on a person that was Turkish. I mean, a person that was Kurdish, and then they had retaliated. The president made that announcement. I believe it was like the second or third operation in Iraq and Syria. They had a little military operation, the Turkish soldiers against the Kurdistan soldiers. So, at the same time, what happened over there in France, and then you still currently have what's going on in the Middle East between the Turks and the Kurds. I don't know if the suspect was Turkish or he had some type of racial against the Kurdistan community. I mean, we don't know yet until we get more specific of that incident, what had happened over there in Paris not too long ago, because the time zones are different from the United States and Paris. So as I showed you that clip right there about what had happened, then you had after the shooting, you had the Kurdistan citizens in that community. After that shooting happened, like 3 people had got killed outside a cafe in a Kurdistan community. And then you had that uproar of a protest. And I think they said the suspect had something against migrants. And then he targeted that specific location with the Kurdistan people. So that shows you a sign what scripture comes into mind. That's the nation against nation. And I'm going to bring that scripture out momentarily after I bring this one out. This is the book of 2nd Ezra. After that after that shooting, they had an uproar of a protest of what happened to their community. They feel like their community is under threat, the Kurdistan community. This is the 2nd Ezra 9:3. Therefore, when there shall be seen earthquakes and uproars in the people in the world, right? That's what we are seeing. With that little protest over there in Paris, France, after that shooting that had happened, they was in an uproar, So that's what you call an uproar protest. Uproar can be in many different categories. It could be against your leaders that's in power, and then citizens do protests about it. And then you can have protests uproars on the people of nations going against different nations and different kingdoms as well too. And so that's what we're seeing around the world. We're seeing uprisings and uproars in the people in the world, So this is taking place. And then you got that racial tension between the nations and different kingdoms as well too. So all nations are not going to really get along with each other. Some might get along with each other, but sometimes they're not going to get along with each other, And I'm going to bring it out again, 2nd Ezra 9:3. Therefore, when there shall be seen earthquakes and uproars in the people in the world, right? That's what we're seeing. We're seeing uprisings and uproars in the people in the world, And we're seeing these racial tensions between the different nations and different kingdoms as well, too. And I'm going to bring out 2nd Ezra 15, verse 16. Salakia. This is the book of 2nd Ezra, chapter 15, verse 16. For the sword and their destruction draw near, and one people shall stand up and fight against another with swords in their hands, right? Because the modern day sword is the modern day weapon. Just like in ancient times they had the sword. Now in modern day times it's the weapon. And that's what you're seeing right now. One people or one nation should stand up against another, and that's what we're seeing. As I mentioned before, the Kurdistan versus the Turks. I don't know about the suspect. They haven't identified the suspect. So since this recently just happened over there, with those 3 people that got shot outside of a cafe in Paris, France. And they believe the suspect targeted the Kurdistan community, and the Kurdistan community kind of felt like they was under threat. Their community was under a threat. In that attack that had happened. And I'm gonna read it again for edification's sake. 2nd Ezra 15, verse 15, and it reads, "For the sword and their destruction draw nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another with swords in their heads." Right, the sword was the modern day weapon. Because you're going to have nations of different kingdoms. It's not just going to be, there's going to be times there's going to be one people going against another. But it's going to be nations, a whole nations going against another nation. And that's what we're seeing over there in eastern Iraq, eastern Syria, over there in the Middle East. You're seeing the that, like I mentioned before as the introduction of the video, you're seeing the Turkish military operation in Iraq, the military operation in eastern Syria and eastern Iraq going against the Kurdistan military, the Turkish soldiers going against the Kurdistan military soldiers. So that's a nation against nations. And once people should stand up against another nation should stand up against another. And that's what we're seeing as well too. In verse 16, 2nd Ezra 15, verse 16, "For there shall be sedition among men." Right, and that's what we're seeing. "Invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor their princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power." Right, with the protesters as well too. And with the sedition among men, different nations going at it with one another as well too. Even though that's common, but you're going to see that increase in the latter days as well too. And I'm going to bring out the Matthew 24 and 6. And this is the book of Matthew, chapter 24, verse 6. "And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet." Right, because we're seeing the increase of the wars and rumors of wars in the Middle East region with the Russia-Ukraine situation. recently North Korea fired off their 2 missiles, and then you got the United States, South Korea, and Japan. They just got through doing their military exercise drills. Now they made another announcement to beef up, increase their military exercise drill. So that's what you hear, a war, a rumor of war, amending the current tensions what's going on between Japan, South Korea, and the United States against North Korea. So that's a war of rumor of war, and it's gonna increase more and more and more. You're gonna hear these things more often because that's what the scripture has stated in the book of Matthew 24:6, between the nations of different kingdoms and wars and rumors of wars. And I'm read it again for edification's sake. This is the book of Matthew 24:6, and it reads, "And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass." Matthew 24:6. This is the main point right here. For nation shall rise against nation. And that's what we're seeing right now. And kingdom against kingdom. And there shall be famines and pestilence and earthquakes in diverse places. Right, we see the earthquakes in diverse places. We see the pestilence in the weather, in the health area category as well too. We see the increase of famines. We see the increase of different nations going against different nations, and kingdoms against different kingdoms as well too. And this is the book of Luke, chapter 21, verse 9. But when ye share, this is kind of similar precept. This is the book of Luke, chapter 21, verse 9. But when ye shall hear of wars and commotions, be not terrified, for these things must first come to pass, but the end is not by anybody, right? Because more prophecies still need to come. With the digital currency, the MOTB, the Revelations 11:14, second woe was past, behold, third woe coming quickly. Still more prophecies still need to happen for it to come to pass. That's why the end is not yet. That's why we're seeing all these things taking place on the planet Earth. Even though this has been going on quite some while now, but it's increasing more and more around the world. And this is the book of because you're gonna have commotions of wars, proxy wars, nations rising up against another nation, and that's what we're seeing. And then I'm gonna go to Luke 21 and 25, I believe. And this is the book of Luke, chapter 21, verse 25, and it reads, "And there shall be signs in the sun and in the moon, and in the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations, with perplexity, the seas and the raving worm." Right, because we see the distress of nations around the world, with the protests, with the nations going against one another, with the increasing famines, the increase of pestilence. These nations are in the distress. That's why the scripture says, upon the earth, distress of nations. And that's what we are seeing. That's taking place on the planet Earth. Not only just happening in one place, it's happening in different places around the world as well too. So that's what we are seeing. But other than that, this was a lesson that I wanted to bring out. What happened over there in Paris, France, was 3 people had got killed, and then there was a protest after those shootings of 3 people had got killed in an area in Paris, which is a majority population of Kurdistan people, and the Kurdistan people felt like their community was under a threat by this suspect that killed 3 people outside of a cafe in Paris, France. So hopefully this lesson was edifying through the spirit, power, grace, and mercy of Yahweh Yahushua. I'd like to give all praises and glory and honor to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua Ba'ashem Akarkadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone, preaching the word truthfully and sincerely. And shalom to the Akim, scattered through the four corners of the globe, preaching the word truthfully and sincerely. And shalom to the Akim that be like unto the speckled bird, preaching the word truthfully and sincerely. And until next time, I will say shalom and a ball.